Yes.
Are you calling a meeting of the Philipsburg Park
You
Committee,
interested in going to that training this year?
Yeah.
March
What
28th,
is it?
May.
2017?
I'm definitely
Committee
interested.
Chairman Daniel Reddish in attendance, Mayor Brett Hamilton, and
Want to send, that's the thing.
Councilman
It's
Jim
on
A.
what it was.
in attendance.
The ninth.
Today, we want to have a general discussion about the upcoming season and the park scheduling, park maintenance, and the park plan. This will be a general discussion about all the parks. And also in this discussion, we will have a conversation concerning the upcoming park advisory board and how we might like to proceed with that.
You give an itinerary and all of it.
I open the floor. Councilman Ady, would you
I
like
can look
to
over it.
start off and how you see things proceeding and what your concerns might be?
Okay, because of my experience, I think I can speak pretty good about this. I think what we need to do as soon as possible is get a halftime person on to start taking
So it
care
starts on Tuesday.
of the garbage
I have to have
in
somebody carry it
downtown.
to the museum.
Kind of what I see here is we have one person
I gotta get some
who does nothing but pick up the garbage on Broadway, take care of the two parks downtown. So that would be this little park out here, as well as Bear Park. In other words, they would mow it, they would water it, they would, check it for garbage and whatnot, water the flowers, that kind of thing.
Dog poop removal.
Dog poop and, make sure those, the dispensers are full and all that kind of stuff. Keep everything clean, In addition, that person would also be responsible for the garbage at Winninghoff Park, as well as taking care of at least the one public restroom that is constantly available.
That would be the one at Winninghoff.
That's the one at Winninghoff.
Just one quick note. You mentioned two parks downtown, Bear Park and
Bear Park and this park right here, the Town Hall Park.
Town Hall Park.
That's
Of
called
course.
Jones Park or.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just call that Town Hall. Okay, go ahead.
So, we would need somebody to take care of Winninghoff Park in that respect. In other words, keeping the bathroom clean and picking up the garbage there. They would need to periodically check Shakey's. Shakey's doesn't get that much action, but there is a
So basically
garbage
it's
can there.
basically a
And then
once
the
person.
big town parks
So,
garbage,
I don't know.
as well as taking care of the two
Some,
bathrooms
we're probably gonna
that
have to
are,
go for him.
Well, I was just
making sure there's
wondering-
toilet paper in there every now and then, going through there with the power washer and cleaning them up. So
Did you go
that
to-
essentially would be 20 hours a week. That would take somebody 20 hours a week.
Julian.
And from June 1st through the end of August,
We had spent at
it's
least a year.
imperative that
I
that
He was there,
person
though.
Julian was there.
is not gonna
I was
have
there.
2 days off in a row. And part of this is
Craig was
because
there.
the dump will be open on
Who
Sundays
didn't go?
from 10 to 2.
Somebody backed out at the last minute.
From that time period of
No, that was last year.
June
But I
1st through
didn't
the
know
end of
about it until I
August.
come in here and totally.
It's closed on Mondays, it's
Somebody
always
else
closed
backed
on
out very
Mondays.
last
And the
minute.
idea here
Very
is
last minute.
that
I mean, it was
if
like.
you pick up the
the day
garbage on
before,
Friday,
ready to
it'll
go.
be full by Sunday morning. And with the dump open on Sunday,
So,
it doesn't have to sit in the back of the truck,
Right.
okay?
That's
It can be taken,
people together.
it can be handled, okay?
So you envision this individual doing a dump run on Sunday?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, that's almost mandatory, because
Okay.
what happens is, like I said, you clean it up Friday, and by Sunday, every one of these garbage cans is packed. I mean, you have a full load.
okay, so how does the week work? Does the week, since ordinarily people don't work on weekends, does the week begin Monday? I'm talking about the regular time, on your
Well,
time.
yeah,
So you
and,
accumulate the 20 hours if you're working on Sunday.
right, so you're
That would
gonna,
be the end of your week, would be Sunday.
pretty much, yeah.
Is that how?
That would
with
be the
I
end
don't
of
know how
the
the,
work week, and
I
they
don't know
would
how the
get,
payroll works.
Oh,
yeah, we get Probably that person would have Saturdays
Yeah,
off
it's probably gonna happen.
and have to
Okay.
work Sundays.
Okay, so that would be the beginning of it,
Go to something like
Yeah.
that.
not the end of it.
Yeah, you can look at it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're gonna need,
You know,
well, we're gonna have to take 20 hours and we're gonna have to try and divide it up the
I know
best
they're
we
pretty
can.
accommodating on something.
You don't need to pick up the garbage every day, but you cannot let it go for more than a day, put it that way.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is the garbage is a really consistent, big,
It's a
constant
big
thing.
issue. It's a big
Aside
issue.
from that, from the normal things that we think about in terms of parks, like mowing the lawn and
Yeah.
doing the trimming and
Yeah.
watering and so on and so forth, the garbage is a big issue. If we, let's just divide this out. And I like the fact that you're talking about downtown, and downtown is characterized by Bear Park, Town Park, Hall Park, and Shakey's Park,
Well,
or is Shakey's Park not?
Shakey's Park is different,
Okay, so Winninghoff Park
right.
would be part of downtown.
Well,
Or do we wanna
for the-
separate
for-
that?
Yeah, no, we wanna separate that. For the
Okay.
garbage and the bathroom cleanup, we can
That-
keep that on parks, but we gotta look at Winning Hog totally different. I mean, you know, it's time for us to take control of that facility and, do what we need to do, you know, similar to what you've done with the PIA, but I mean, it needs to be a separate entity
Okay.
because of the maintenance part of it.
Okay, so Winninghoff Park, as you see it, only falls into the purview of downtown parks with regard to the garbage, and that's it?
The garbage and cleaning the public restroom on the outside of the building.
And mowing.
Well, you know, no, because you start talking about mowing and first off, that hill can take one whole day. It can take a person 8 hours. I mean, as far as weed whacking and mowing, I wasn't talking about mowing. Mowing needs to be separate. I think eventually what we're gonna have to look at is one part-timer and one full-timer. And the full-timer is gonna do nothing but basically mow and take care of the parks.
Busy guy.
Trim trees, you know, whatever needs to be done.
Yeah.
Take care of it that way.
So one full-time parks individual, and then a half-time assistant
Oh, you guys.
that would
are-
focus mainly
Theory.
on
Garbage.
public hygiene, garbage and bathroom.
And downtown.
And
I mean, the
downtown,
look of
yeah.
downtown is
Right,
important,
yeah.
you know.
I wanna interject something here, even though I'm not on here. We've gotta get some way to handle this garbage easier than the way it's being done now.
Right.
Whether it's, I mean, taking it out, and putting it in the back of the pickup, and taking it out to the dump, and taking it out of the back of the pickup and putting it in the dump. We've gotta figure out a better way to do that.
Okay, let me give you what I think on that. We do have a garbage disposal company in this town that picks up garbage. This is such a big problem, why don't we let them deal with the problem and take care of it? That takes it off of our hands, and now all we have to worry about is somebody that has to maintain the parks.
And the sprucing up of town.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we would basically not have anything to do with the,
I would say to you, Mr. Mayor, that that's an interesting thought. So logically, what we would do is get on the phone and get a quote and find out what it would cost.
Right.
And it would be nice in this sense that if we did do that, we could isolate the cost. Then we could go hat in hand to the individuals that are downtown and say, and we have a couple $100 worth of quarters sitting there. And that might be something, since it's coming gratis from a business, that it makes sense that maybe, and we're looking for something to do.
$80 a month for that copy.
The restrooms are probably the only thing that is above garbage in practical use.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Everybody
You don't
uses
wanna
the
commit
bathroom and almost everyone does the
which
garbage.
is a problem
Okay.
downtown.
Yeah,
You know, I think if
That's
maybe we
something
do
that-
that, I wasn't necessarily thinking about going through granite disposal. But if we went through granite disposal, I'm sure you can come up with some type of a can that's maybe bigger than what we're using now, that have a lid on them, maybe a lid with a
So you
spring-loaded
think that
flapper
would be-
lid on the inside of it, to where he could come up with the arm on his truck
Well, it doesn't matter,
and,
$80 a
and,
month.
and dump the trash.
$1,000.
But I see this trash coming as a workman's comp claim, I see it coming as a couple other things, so maybe Daniel, with that, maybe, or you bet, maybe that's a better idea, maybe we ought to figure it out. And that would give us a solid figure for what it costs to do Broadway, and then if we come back to the business people and say, okay, this trash is basically being caused by the downtown business district,
Yeah.
then we need to figure out the disposal of the trash.
Would you, contact, Mr. Mayor, do you have any problem contacting Granite Disposal
No.
and getting some quotes?
Do you know the gentleman's name?
Pretty good.
Oh, but
I don't know.
I will contact him.
Don't chug through some pages.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
because again,
And
it's,
it's a scan.
I guess,
Yeah.
for me,
And a fax.
what do we keep talking about
I think
and
they
then
keep
talking
talking
about
about
it, and then talking about it,
Yeah.
right? And we need
Yeah.
to stop talking about it.
It's become, in the last couple of years, it has doubled. I
Right.
mean, it was not nearly this much work when it started,
Yeah.
you know, with the town, but, the last 2 years especially, and now they're coming more, you know, Dwayne and I were talking about this yesterday. You can't get a parking spot downtown on Sunday now.
Yeah.
You know, he's got a visitation at his museum, he's already getting 40, 50 people on Sundays.
So,
So now think about
I
this.
just went and looked at that street.
Let's just
closure
say-
thing That guy wants, it looks like it's the
What,
road
you said
going
20
down the
hours
hill.
for trash, correct?
Well,
And
yeah,
then
to
they-
take care of
Okay.
downtown. Yeah.
20 hours, if
Yeah,
we
the
pay
road goes down
somebody,
and up the hill.
which is what's the
It's
park
not- I mean,
salary?
there's-
Just
Okay.
say,
Yeah.
12.
there's
12
no-
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
$240
It's not supposed to turn.
per month for
It's
garbage.
supposed to just go straight up.
Why would we
Goes
not,
through
if we can
his-
get Granite
where
Disposal,
his
I'm somewhere in
is.
that neighborhood of
Yeah, I
that
got you.
cost,
Yeah,
why wouldn't we do this?
Fence.
To
Well,
me,
I-
it just it frees up,
Kind of
plus we gotta look at,
Obviously, it was
frees
originally
up that
plotted that way
person.
because it was all individual.
It frees the
lots.
person up, and also that
Even
240
when we're not part
is
of that.
just their wages.
Yeah,
That
it's
doesn't
not-
have any, you don't factor in the time for the processing of the payroll,
That's supposed to
additional
be-
work for the, you know, all, there's a sundry stuff there, that figure's probably.
better deliver us by the garbage
Yeah, we
bags.
got a lot of-
garbage bags are
that-
roughly
that-
85 to
funky
45 cents a piece.
Near the hospital.
so we'd have to
Yeah.
put that, you know, that'd have to be
Yeah.
something that we work out with them.
You've got 12 garbage cans just
Not supposed to
downtown.
be straight,
Yes.
Yeah,
but it,
So,
you know, it
I-
turns.
The one thing about Granite Disposal, I think, the way he
Yeah.
might steer you,
Do you
he's
know
like
if
kind
anybody
of
talked to David
bullshit
Gray
with
about
about
that?
it once, was,
About that.
he might go and say, well, if you set up a couple of
I'm gonna call in,
dumpsters
tell him.
in key areas, then he just come by and
Well,
pick it
just
up. So
because
that-
it's.
that saves us going to the
environment.
dump
And if it's a,
necessarily.
it's
You know,
currently
you
it's a
understand what I'm
public road.
saying?
He-
If we had a dumpster, let's say back
Obviously,
here in
he
this
won't care
alley, and we had another one,
Unless he's looking
let's
for
say out
a
of the big
different
park.
road.
I don't even wanna mess with it.
well, also then
Then you
that,
know, park.
we're losing our efficiency. I understand that he probably would like to do that because it's more efficient on,
Right.
for him.
I think that's the way he's gonna steer it.
But if we're gonna empty the current garbage, we can take an individual and go to each thing and put it in a truck, then take it to the dumpster, then we might as well take it to the dump.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but that's good that you point that out, and then that way in the conversation with the individual, you can say, no, this is what we're proposing, so give us a bid based on, and maybe it's not a normal process for you, then account for that in your bid. You know, if you're gonna have to stop at each can, and he also has more than one truck.
Oh,
He-
yeah,
He might say,
Well, you're
he
not
might,
busy at all when I interrupt you, are you?
for the commercial end of town, he might bring a smaller truck that's.
Well, he's got that.
He's got a
Yeah.
small one.
Yeah, that,
So-
I didn't
right,
wanna be
so,
the cause of your stress.
But I'm just thinking, you know, because he doesn't have to put bags in his,
It looks
because
like
they
it
dump the
does.
can immediately, where we've got to bag ours, because, you know, if you don't put a bag in there,
130.
then you're gonna have a real mess on
They do,
it.
they just.
Where
base-
his, he doesn't,
they
because
base
he
it
just
on
dumps directly into the truck and sends the
Right.
can back out.
Yeah, so.
See, that's another thing about the
They buy
garbage
your
cans,
paper
when
or
you
what?
get into July and August
Oh,
between
they do buy the
barbecue
toner,
sauce
that's
and
why.
beer,
Okay.
it just
Two
breeds
toners.
yellow
Oh,
jackets
God.
like no tomorrow.
so let me ask you this,
And that-
Councilman
that's
eighty,
probably
if we were to approach this
Although
individual,
I don't know, non-colored.
we need to be in the driver's seat in terms of
Big ones,
constructing a
yeah,
schedule
so-
that he would adhere to. In other
Right.
words, we need to say to
It's
them, here's what we
nobody's,
want you to do,
cousin
and
or
here's
uncle that's applied.
when we want you to do it. So now, having established that, when would we
Well, I've
want you
seen
to
it
do it?
done
On
for-
Well,
Sunday?
Well, the thing is he's here on Mondays and Thursdays. And whether, you know, again, you're gonna have to talk to him about
That's probably
changing his
the second
schedule,
contract
or
for the company.
has he got a different way to do it?
Well,
He's
we've
here
got
twice a
another
week.
problem, we got another
No,
problem,
it's
because
the guy who
during
brought
the
it.
summer, this place fills up,
Yeah.
all the way from about
So,
8 o'clock
so-
till 9 o'clock at
Well,
night.
Double park like everybody else.
Yeah.
and
$20
pull up.
But what I'm saying,
Yeah, that's
for
a lot.
him to have access, you
Yeah.
might have to get up,
All right,
you know, have somebody get up at 5 in the morning and go pick it up. I mean, that might be the way we have to handle it.
Okay,
But I will talk to him.
yeah, you definitely talk to him,
Okay.
and then you have enough knowledge of the way that it works.
Right.
To where you can give him the nuances of what we would
Right.
require methodology wise, so
Straightened out now?
Yes.
that would be good.
Okay.
And so,
The electric.
let's just say, so we can keep the conversation going, if he balks at this and says, no, I don't wanna do it, I have more work than I can handle,
No, I'm still working on
then we
that,
go
so
back to
it's
the
all right.
scenario that you're describing,
All right,
which I
yeah,
totally
yeah,
agree
so-
with, which is to have a half-time town maintenance person, if you will. That is at the disposal of the park person, essentially. And
Right.
and they would have established parameters for what they do for the 20 hours a week.
Right,
And that, I think, even if we did go that way, I think we would see amazing difference. And I know that you've experienced running around all over the place, trying to be two places at once. I like the idea of focusing on this.
Yeah.
Here's your mandate, this is what you're responsible for, so there should never be any hiccups, like, oh, I got caught over here mowing and I
Yeah.
couldn't get to it. No, it'd be very
Right.
cut and dry. Here's your marching orders, and you stick to these things.
Right.
Now, if you get those done and you have excess hours, then you flow over into whatever the park might,
you know,
something like that.
you can trim some trees,
Right.
you got stuff to clean up, I mean, there's always something to do.
Just having responsibility for the downtown, he would basically have responsibility for these two parks also. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That
part
would
of it,
make
that's
sense.
part of it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that person would be mowing
Picking
these two
garbage
lawns,
off the
picking the
streets.
garbage up.
Picking
Yeah.
stuff off the street. so-
Oh, yeah, yeah.
so, and this is another thing where I wanna sort of exploit your talent here. So you've got it in your mind, so I think what I would request is that you put together, much like you did before with what was needed in the parks, that you
Okay.
put together a schedule.
Okay,
Here are the tasks, and here's the timeline, and here's the amount of hours. And then that way, when we hire someone, we just hand it to them. And then we keep our public works director apprised of our process.
Right.
But we don't need to have him involved in this process outside of maybe the individual might need a truck, for example. We need
Oh,
to
yeah.
schedule that sort
Yeah.
of thing. But beyond that, I think
beyond
it's.
that, you really shouldn't need much supervision.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
It's laid out, you
Right,
know.
so,
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking, you know, we have a 18-acre cemetery in this town that employs people during the summer. They're their own entity, they have their own stuff, they don't have, to, you know, they do get cooperation
Right.
from, you know, the city and the county, but there's no reason why that can't happen up here too.
No,
Same
and
thing.
I agree, and again, that's why I think we need one person to focus on certain things, a half-time person, and then for 3 months, at least from, well, I don't know, I would think May 1st through, Labor Day, then you want a full-time person that is mowing, moving sprinklers, and taking care of the other things that need to be taken care of at the park.
okay. We are at 38% of our budget on parks. We've used 38% and we are in the 60s percentile for the fiscal year.
Let me, you want me to isolate it? And
Yeah,
print
that
it out
if you
for
could.
guys?
Also, the reason I'm bringing this up at the moment is, again, I wanna go beyond the suggested to the agreement. And if we agree we're gonna proceed in this manner, then we need to get an ads in the paper
Right.
ASAP. So, we need to know what kind of money we're playing with. And what's been pulled out of the park budget through this fiscal year, which is from, what is it, July 1st?
July 1st to June 30th.
Right, and so that,
Well, and I want you
It
guys,
kind of splits the busy season
yeah,
too.
it does.
Yeah.
So,
I want you to remember also that we have another project going up right next to the town park. Should be started when? This summer?
as soon as if the grant is, approved,
Oh, the
pretty much
pipe.
as soon as the funds
Yeah,
are.
I think, yeah.
Well, it's not, you're talking about a trail.
It's just a trail, yeah. It's a
Yeah.
multi-use,
But
not
it's still
motorized
gonna
trail.
have, it's still gonna have garbage and,
Right.
you know.
This is just the last page of the general fund, so there's kind of just some random stuff above it. but-
So we're at 38%.
Yes.
Okay.
That total looks pretty good,
That looks pretty good, yeah.
don't you think?
You're talking out here?
I'm looking right here.
Oh,
Yeah, right here. How much is still available?
So, that's roughly 30 grand, is that the number you're looking at, 29.2 here?
It's been committed,
Right.
and the rest of that is still available.
Current appropriation.
Mm-hmm.
what I would say though, is a lot of it's expended other than the salaries, because obviously we budgeted for Jim
Right,
a full year.
right.
If you're changing what the description of the job is, or who is maintaining the parks, the budget is not the same as that, right?
Right, which is why I asked for the number
Yeah.
and said, well, we gotta hire people, now we gotta look at the numbers. Can we accommodate a person and a half on the appropriation that's remaining? It doesn't matter what we call the person, right, as long as it's coming out of the park fund. And our budget in the past few years, 50% of it has gone to wages and benefits, which was roughly 25 grand out of 50 grand. I'm just using round numbers, basically.
Yeah.
So, again, at 46, we're up near the 50, and we haven't been paying the money out based on those budgeted for wages that are not, you know what I'm saying, they haven't been paid out. So,
Well, we paid out $3,902
Yeah.
for salaries, and employee contributions, 2,120. Now that's,
5,000.
yeah,
between
and
the two.
that's split amongst our town workers right now, right? That-
No,
No, that was
That's just
basically
when you were
what I was
when
paying
you were
Oh, that's right.
until
okay.
I was,
Until you were decommissioned.
Yes.
right.
Right.
okay,
So we're not
we-
having any other salaries.
no, but,
Okay.
okay, again, so, sorry, not again, but this is another thing to consider it in the context of the whole general fund and everything that comes out of the general fund. So if you're talking about doing things to streets, you're gonna wanna look at the streets budget, and it's a balancing act, right? I mean,
You're talking about the garbage end of it being on the streets?
no, I'm talking about if your plan is to put in 5 culverts around town, or to do any kind of street repairs, chloride stuff, I mean, this is all.
So how much money is there, Reed?
In what?
Well, is there
For salaries.
for salaries?
For park,
I mean, you can expend all of that, but then you need to think that on the other end, maybe you don't have the money available. You can't go over budget for other projects in the general fund, right?
I see what he's saying.
But we appropriated
That's
during the budget process,
Yes.
we appropriated $46,994 to the parks. Is that
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
Now, does that money have to stay in the parks? I guess that's my question.
Um,
Or can it be transferred from?
it's
As far as I'm concerned, it's a definition.
it's a gray area.
Yeah, and
It's,
if an individual is mowing Bear Park, that's parks. If they take a broom and they sweep the gutter out after they mowed Bear Park, that's parks as far as I'm concerned. If they are in fact being paid through the parks, I don't care what they're doing. I guess I'm chasing the money, like the money I get it, it's all in the general fund, but specific to parks.
this is why people don't like the general fund also, right? This whole dynamic of there's like a lot of different things just kind of lumped into one.
Right,
So, while that, I understand that point of view, it also kind of gives you more flexibility across funds.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying. Or across the fund. I mean, we did not budget for 5 culverts. Or any kind of, I mean, I don't think I thought that the
we didn't budget for,
mag chloride we budgeted 4,000 for.
right, and we're gonna
It's
go
cost
over that.
7.
Right, we're gonna go
So-
over that. And part of your job is to figure out how to column it, where to put it.
Yeah.
In
So in
the
other
general
words,
fund.
if,
Well, I know exactly where it's gonna go, but it's just gonna
Put
There
pressure.
is-
streets
29.
streets is gonna go. It's gonna skyrocket. It's gonna be $3,000 over what was budgeted, and there's still salaries coming out of that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but the people you're hiring now, as compared to when you made this budget and I was still on,
Yeah.
they're not getting any benefits.
Yeah. So that.
So, I mean, that obviously does save some money, correct?
Yeah, it would. The employer contributions would be significantly lower, mostly through the health insurance.
Right, right.
There's still employer contributions like Social
Yeah.
Security and Medicare
Sure.
Unemployment.
and unemployment
Unemployment.
insurance. Yeah.
This was my idea. If we hired a part-time person, we don't have to engage in that stuff, penny-wise. If we
Right.
hire a full-time person, we do,
right,
correct?
yep.
Just like you were getting as a full-time employee, you were getting all the benefits.
Even if it's only,
Seasonal.
yeah, cause I wasn't getting any benefits when I was seasonal. I didn't get any benefits until I was full.
Okay, so that's my question.
But they took out, but they did take
I
out.
mean, they
all the
took out for my
withholding.
Sure,
taxes.
which is different than the,
You know,
but
But
it's the
did
same
you get any
Yeah, I got
vacation
it.
or
So-
sick leave?
No,
So-
I didn't get sick leave, I didn't get, paid vacation, I didn't have medical benefits. I didn't
as a full-time seasonal.
have- As a full-time seasonal.
Okay,
yeah.
so I was making the distinction of trying to mitigate those costs by hiring 2 part-timers, but as I understand it now, as you clarified to me, in a sense, even at full-time,
He's part-time.
if you're seasonal, you don't play that game.
That's something we
yeah.
need Reed to check into, because at the school district, the part-time employees got vacation and sick leave. It was prorated to hours worked.
Part-time is a different distinction than seasonal.
Well, no, see, I think if you chose under state statute, that, they get them their prorated benefits and they gotta work
You're right in
required.
the sense that it's a
Yeah.
lot of things are fine-tuned.
The
but
sick leave was the
you can't.
vacation was 6 months. So most of your seasonal employees didn't get the 6 months
Yeah.
in to collect the time.
Okay.
But the health insurance was 3 months.
Okay. I mean, I can look.
Yeah,
at
that's
this,
something,
but-
because
Yeah,
All
we
right,
had
well,
seasonal
because
employees.
I think we wanna offer the positions, but no benefits. I mean.
Okay, so then we are in agreement that we are gonna hire park people,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Right.
oh, yeah.
All right, so that's a given, and if we have to address budgetary issues with regard to things like culverts and that, we're gonna have to address that. But we are going to hire
Yeah.
people. So we should proceed in that manner.
Right.
And you're of the opinion that a part-timer and a full-time seasonal, a part-time seasonal and a full-time seasonal, we'll say it that way.
Right.
Okay, and
You know, and you're gonna wanna run one through, let's say, 1st of May roughly, through Labor Day, and then again, 1st of June through Labor Day.
So the full-time seasonal
The full-time seasonal person will basically.
start May
yeah,
1st.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the part-time seasonal will start June 1st and work up till Labor Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can do it that way.
Yeah. Well, what we used to do up at the cemetery when the water tank got low, we were done. Because you're just fighting a losing battle in the late summer.
Well, yeah, in August, there'll be very little mowing for the guy that's
Yeah.
actually doing the mowing, but
Right.
he will have an opportunity to trim some trees up, get some of the dead stuff out of there, you know, I mean, there are little projects at the park.
Well, and also we gotta look at, and I know Dan and I, or Councilman Reddish and I went up and looked at that, but the infield for the baseball team is.
Yeah, well, Mr. Zell helped us with
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know, and there's all kinds of little projects.
well, I would
Yeah.
say this about what you're referring to, all sorts of little projects. This is something that, that this will be a topic of conversation for the Parks Advisory Board.
Right,
In other words, we'll list out what our priorities are and what we can afford to do, and then we'll have a second tier of priorities that are not budgeted for. And here you go, figure out how maybe you guys can augment this or
right,
hold fundraisers or develop work crews to try to accomplish this, because
Right.
that's part of the voluntary methodology.
right.
You know, so,
Wondering if we need to create a new position, a new job description? Because the town and parks maintenance specialist, which is what your job was, this position requires full-time 40 hours per week.
Yeah. You need
So
to
that's just
create
right.
a seasonal,
Right in there. Yeah.
seasonal.
So that would be something Robert might, or I can maybe ask,
well, we've hired part-time people before.
yeah, I guess this is just the 2013 version. And it's
What's
because,
in the employee handbook on seasonal employees or part-time employees?
we did hire like the kid for like 2 weeks.
What's in the union contract about seasonal and part-time?
I don't
I don't know,
know.
you wanna read it?
Because it should be covered in there.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't what?
Do you wanna go ahead and load another load, or you wanna see what it looks like?
She's coming in good, the other one isn't coming in good.
Now, I want to shift gears here for a minute.
Yeah.
With respect to this park advisory
Okay.
board, the construct of it, how do you think we should operate with this? Do you think we should say, we have the overview, in other words, we're in
Right.
charge essentially. We have the thumbs up, thumbs down. Do we want to step back and liaison with these folks and say, okay, you guys put together this board, draw up a mission statement, elect officers, schedule your meetings? Or do we want to chair these meetings, develop the schedule, develop the agenda, and then they're just participants somehow?
I'm not that big into power, but I think, quite honestly, you know, we know what's going on, we know what needs to be done, and I think we can use the Park Advisory Board as, you know, give us new ideas and to pitch in, but, when it gets right down to it, we're the ones that know what needs to get done.
Right.
I mean, the basics,
Right.
you know, the simple stuff, if nothing else. You know, if nothing else, the garbage needs to be picked up, and we gotta keep the lawns mowed and watered and, you know, that kind of thing.
And so do you envision either myself or yourself chairing the meeting
Right,
and calling the meeting to order, and that's kind of how I originally imagined it.
yeah,
And then we would develop a agenda,
Right.
and then they themselves could get together and assign themselves committees to deal with various issues on the agenda,
right.
something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we can set priorities for what we want to do, and again, you know, bringing in the public, the way the town is, and the way the town is, reacts to everybody, I think, you know, if we decide, hey, we're gonna put a soccer field out there, we can have a pint night, get the equipment, and, you know, I mean, almost build a soccer field on voluntary basis, you know, any of those kinds of things. And I think there's a lot of, well, particularly the big town park, I think there's all kinds of room for all kinds of neat stuff. I mean, that could really be a jewel, you know. But we got, the thing is before we do any of that, we gotta cover the basics, and that keeping the town clean and keeping the garbage, you know, picked up. And garbage is just something that the Parks Department inherited, one of those things, you know.
Well, I think what we're dealing with here on the board is some very educated people that have
Yeah.
great backgrounds in different parts that will work together to diversify
Right.
what's going on up there. It
Yeah.
only can help. It can't hurt us.
No,
And if we wanna give them the power to, you know, run the parks as they seem fit, I think any major decision, I think the construction of this, however you wanna construct it, has to be organized at the beginning. We don't wanna go in there and then all of a sudden have,
Right.
you know, we want
Right.
to have specific guidelines for this park board. And they don't have to be real, you know, narrow, they can be broad, and let them just,
Yeah.
let's see how things go, and
I
I think it's all positive. I don't think what we've been
Right.
talking about has been negative here. I think this is a workable situation, and I think this is the way to approach it. And I agree with you, I think we should have some design to the committee that, you know.
what I
And
like
I don't know
about,
exactly
you
what
know,
that is, but,
the people that have shown interest so far, I think we've got a pretty diverse, you know, cross-section of the community, which was my only concern originally when I made that motion at the last general meeting, which I'm gonna unmotion at the next general meeting, but I just didn't wanna pack it with people that were only thinking one way, you know, and you know, that the one where the gal's got all kinds of education, I mean, she's just sounds like a jewel.
Yeah, she'll
Bring
be-
her on,
Yeah,
you know.
seems to me that she's an asset. There's some other individuals that'll be real assets. And let me be frank, the reason that I even decided to explore this possibility had to do exclusively with the way that Winninghall Park was being handled.
Right.
And how that there was power groupings that had one consideration and then another consideration. And that these, the individuals that compose these groups never much talk to each other face to face.
Right, right.
They get things second and third hand. And so my idea originally was to put everybody in the same room. So that when the conversation begins concerning the future of Winninghall Park, that people are getting it directly in real time,
Right.
what the conversation is about and what's being said.
Yeah.
And so, back to Winninghall Park specifically,
Doing that electric.
I think that I agree with you that it's an isolated set of circumstances. It's not general park use, it's an event
Reading.
facility. That, well, let me say, it's developing into an event facility.
Right.
Now, there are individuals who years ago said, oh, this will be a multi-purpose area, and they'll ice skate in the winter, and they'll play soccer or screw around in the summertime, and that's about all we wanna do with it. But now, since then, there's been events there that have sort of shaped the process. And what we have to do is, again, I agree with you, we have to get in front of that, and we have
It did show
to
up in
take the bull
January.
by the horns and create a direction for the process. Then the incidentals that are inside the process, then we'll let the folks participate in that.
I guess.
But we
I mean, it wasn't.
They can give us their opinion and say, hey, I think the future should look like this, and we can take all that under consideration, but ultimately, we will make the decision. Another consideration with Winninghoff is that you have two individuals that wanna be on the board, on the advisory board, that have property adjoining the park. They have a physical connection to the park.
Right.
So that has to be, that's a fact that has to be
Yeah.
put forward
Right.
and say, in terms of how the park's developed. I know there's been consideration, there's been talk about the possibility of shutting down the road and putting a stage in the middle of the road. And so these are the specifics of the future use of the park that I want an open debate. So if I establish an agenda and I say, not on the first meeting, but say the second meeting, we'll take care of old business and we'll move that forward. Now, new business, we're gonna discuss the usage in the future of Winninghoff Park. And
Right.
we'll isolate that out
The fee
as a specific
structure
thing, because I'll
and
guarantee you,
everything
why everybody has
Larry's.
genuine concerns for all the parks,
Right.
and they want, and they're advocates for enhancing open space and park use and so on and so forth.
For some reason.
I don't think we'll get any pushback on that, on improving the park or
Right.
improving these
These are
parks.
unrelated.
But we will
Just to
give
keep this
attention
on
on
the
the
table.
park
Right.
and its use.
Right.
And so,
Um,
the majority of my
Larry
reasoning
said
behind
he won't.
putting this
he's
together
leaving
is pretty much based on that,
Okay.
right?
You know, and I understand that, I
Because
think.
when I talked to him,
The problem has been with Winninghoff Park is it's always been this kind of touchy-feely, don't we feel warm about the whole thing, and then the town ended up with a bill, and,
Okay.
you know, it's always been, you know, this group and that group fighting over, you know, the future, what we're gonna do and everything. I think first off, what we really need to do is the town needs to take Winninghoff Park back. It's our park. It's our entity. We have to run it. We're responsible for it. We pay the bills for it. So first off, change all the locks. I mean, we gotta get a grip that is our facility. What is in there is our property. And we will decide as a part, you know, as members of the town council, as well as taking the advice of the advisory board on what's the best way to run Winninghoff Park. And we might rustle some feathers there.
Well, there's no question about that.
But the thing is, quite honestly, is we gotta come to some kind of compromise, and that facility needs to be taken care of properly, okay?
Right, and again, this is really indicative of the public-private partnership.
Right.
Which people on the private part of that partnership don't have a sense of process on the public side.
Right.
They are very narrow in their focus, and they sometimes don't understand why things don't work a certain way because it makes sense out there.
Right.
And that's not the way the government works, obviously.
Right.
People know that, but they don't cop to it all the time.
Right.
And the other thing I want to emphasize with this is the concept of public-private partnership. And the town itself is experiencing a tipping point in terms of people's personal perspective on the function of government.
Right.
And it sounds, I don't know what the right word would be, it sounds all intellectual, say, for
Yeah.
example, but it's very practical. These are the motivators for people. In other words, you say the town has to take on the expense of the park. That's true. There are many people now where there were only a few before that have no problem with that.
Right.
They think that that's a common function of government, and they're willing, most of them, to pay more taxes and to grow government, to assume those responsibilities. So there's a philosophical divide in here on what the actual function of government is. And this is, and I can't overstate that, this is exactly where we are right now in the political milieu of town. It's turning over, that this more proactive government, progressive attitude is counterbalanced against the more laissez-faire libertarian perspective that the town is famous for. So
Yeah.
that perspective permeates everything, and it really comes to the front in parks because of open space and usage, and whether or not that's a government function or not. So I will make it very clear in the beginning that I'm only willing to expend so much resource and energy and time on fighting over the public-private partnership. And the people have to understand that we, as elected representatives, have to consider everyone, and including people who have never set foot in the park.
Right.
And so it can't,
Need anything else?
it's just the way that it is, and there has to be an understanding of
You got
that.
your key.
So, and this is part of the conversation we'll have. So in the
Yeah.
beginning, when we do the original meeting, I think that meeting, most of the agenda is gonna be spent on formulating, I mean, I'll have a broad outline about the structure of it, but formulating what we expect out of the board.
Right.
And what
Okay.
what we will mandate them to do, or what we'll allow them to do in
Right.
the process. And I will get with you before that, so
You
we
know,
can,
because my thing too is that we need to look at all the parks evenly. In other words, we can't spend all of our time with Winning Hawk Park. You know, I know it's an asset and it needs some things done, we gotta figure out a few things. But we got other parks, we got other things to look at, you know, and I don't want the park board to just be nothing more than a sounding board for what we do for Winning Hawk Park and not
yeah.
tackle the rest of the issues.
Okay,
you know?
so that's a great example of why we should control the agenda,
Yes.
right? And,
Yes.
and when we control the agenda, we control the agenda. And that's why I see it as a potential point of contention, so we isolate it out. And when we talk about Winning Hawk Park, we make it clear that Winning Hawk Park is not the only park, obviously, but
Right.
because it has some special considerations, we're gonna isolate it out in conversation.
Right.
But remember that it's in the bigger picture of all the parks. Before I forget here, there's an individual who has property bordering the park also, who came into our meeting with this idea that he wanted to condemn part of a road that used to exist, and that there's another consideration, that he borders the property up there. I don't know if he borders Winning Hawk's property, or does the Rotary own the hillside through Winning Hawk's?
Yeah, I'm
And the
not-
town just owns the bottom? Those
Yeah.
things have to be determined, those
Yeah,
things.
those things need to be determined.
Bottom line is, I don't even know, the mayor and I drove up there yesterday, and we're not sure exactly what he's talking about.
Where the blue posts are.
Yeah, okay, if you look at the blue post, on that side of the blue post, or he
No,
wants to go on this
Between
side?
the blue posts. There's 4 blue posts.
Right,
It's between the blue posts. That's the old alleyway, or the street, between those posts.
huh,
He owns on both sides of those posts and the one end of the posts.
okay, so if the posts are running parallel with the hill
Yeah,
going down like this,
yeah.
they're running like this, right?
That's the way the
So
street
he
runs.
owns this side and this side of the post?
And he owns 3 sides, the front and
Okay,
both sides.
this side, this side, and this side.
Right.
So if you go past the post heading north down the hill,
I think you'd be headed west or east towards the other street.
we should drive up there, because I guess.
Well, I think he'll explain that to us, and
Yeah.
like I say, we'll tackle that.
Well, all I'm saying, the reason I'm bringing it up is because we don't know what the actual boundaries are
Yeah.
for Winning Hawk Park. I mean, what do we own?
Right.
It's so.
And I
it's-
surely need to get up there and have it explained to me exactly. You apparently,
Yeah,
you're right up there
walked-
with you.
yeah, I went up there and then I looked on the map, and the other piece of property that was acquired there was a land trade with the town, according to the paperwork that he gave us. When we abandoned that piece of property and let it go private, the town evidently received another piece of property somewhere.
And you don't know where that is.
I have no idea where that is, because I wasn't around
Yeah,
there. He has mentioned nothing in that paperwork of his
about compensation.
about compensations or giving us another piece of property. He wants us to abandon that, so that gives him a bigger lot, which I have no problem with. For about $25,000, you can have that 120 by 40.
Let's get back to our.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, another thing I want to bring up on the park is, I don't think some of the people realize that when they rent the Winnie Hawk Park or whatever, the town cannot lose any money in that rental.
Right.
They have to pay, they have
Basic
to,
costs.
they have to cover the town's costs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're giving away taxpayer money without
Well,
authorization.
that's what we've been doing.
And that's what we've been doing, yeah, I agree with that. That's like I say, some of this with some of this other stuff.
We gotta take that particular park, especially by the horns, and say, this is a town property, you know, and put behind us all the fighting and bickering and the, you know, comparison to a puppy dog and all that. We have it.
Yeah.
Okay, and now it's our responsibility to try and make it pay for itself, or at least, you know, make it so that,
Understand.
number one, you know, it's obviously a great facility, but number two, that we're covering at least some of the costs to run it.
Because, you know, like you say, the people coming forward want us to abandon the alley down there, the street down there, so they can put the stage down there. What's that, I mean, we're talking about, what benefit is that to the town also? You know, I mean, are they adding more property to Winnie Park that's coming off the tax roll and whatever, going on the town's responsibility?
Yeah, that's good, right, and that's gonna, I mean, it might be incidental, but then that also mitigates our gas tax somewhat. The less road we have, the
Well,
less
yeah,
gas
that-
tax we get.
Yeah,
Right.
yep, you're right there. Yeah, there's a lot of factors in that, you know?
That's why we need a board. I mean, you know, we don't necessarily have to follow their recommendations, but we certainly would.
Well, and again, because there is a general interest in this and people feel vested in it, then I think that it's a common sense approach to hand them the outline and say, you put your committee together, talk with our bookkeeper, we'll augment or we'll help you, enable you in any manner, but we want to explore real costs of
Right.
Whittinghoff Park.
Right.
And we want your committee, based on park financing or however you want to call it, to do the legwork and present us with a report on
Right.
real costs.
Yeah. Well, that's just like when we flooded through the ice association, the town's paying for the water.
Right, and if I have a different attitude, I'd be like, you're charging me $1.50 per thousand, and you're putting 5 million gallons of water over there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, we can do that because the irony is we have an excess amount of water.
right.
Which is really too bad we have to charge for water on a usage rate, considering the fact that we have too much water.
Yeah, I
So,
agree,
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
You know, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But anyhow, yeah.
So I think we're in generally speaking, we're in the same
Right.
ballpark in terms of the approach with these folks
I think that's where we should start. Let's establish the committee. In my mind, I have projects, you know. I mean, I look at Whittinghoff Park. The one thing I'd like to get done at Whittinghoff Park this year is to replace that deck. It's dangerous, you know, it's rotting, it needs work. You know, we've got the shakes for the pavilion, you know.
Well, we have some of them. It doesn't, we don't have all square footage, but again,
But I mean, you know, we gotta prioritize projects and say, well, what do we wanna get done this year and what can we get done?
yeah. Do I need it or?
Yeah, do you need the phone?
No,
number?
I've got it. I have, September 2015, the synopsis that you put together about each park, which we'll probably make copies and start with that in terms of, because you got a good concise overview here
Right.
of what's necessary. And you have each park, you have Big Town Park, Shakey's Park, Bear Park, Town Hall Park, which you had named, and you have Whittinghoff Park. And you referenced the deck. The deck needs some serious work. It's not going to be cheap.
I think.
Support beams, and so you give an analysis of, and so we need to give this. We'll make copies of this. We'll give it to them. We'll reformat it or whatever. We'll give it to them
Right.
and say, here's the beginning of a broad outline of what the general considerations are.
Okay.
And so then we'll just assign them tasks, I guess, is what we'll do and get their
We'll let
input.
them volunteer, and if they don't volunteer, we'll sign.
Yeah, and that's the big thing that we have to realize, these people are volunteering
Yeah.
their time. And they would not have applied for this position
Right.
if they didn't feel like they wanted to give back to the community. So
Right.
I wanna make note, I really appreciate the people that have stepped on board, and I'm very excited.
I'm excited
I'm
too.
excited the way we're going about this, because I think this is something that has been put on the back burner for the last 4 years. And, I know a lot of
Somebody
people in
caused
town.
problems.
Yeah,
along
and I know a
the way.
lot of people in town that are very proud of what these parks have became and could become, so.
In that conversation, I'll just quickly note here, and then we'll wrap it up, unless anyone has anything else. In that conversation concerning the future of Weddinghoff Park, as we develop possible options for the future, I will insist and enter into the agenda the option of giving it back to Weddinghoffs. I want that hung out there
Yeah,
as a motivator.
right.
For get it together, communicate, cooperate, and produce something, or here's the default mode,
Yeah,
and I would sit here in front of everyone and make the motion to do it.
yeah,
There needs to be a carrot and stick approach here, so people
right,
come on board.
right.
So, and that could fall flat on my face. I could say I make a motion that, and I could never get a second or whatever. It's up to obviously the council.
Right.
So, it certainly would take a big headache away from us,
Right.
you know, so I think that we need, I'm gonna be very frank
I
about it.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's absolutely correct.
Well, and the biggest thing that we have to try to do is be consistent in how we approach it, and also keep a consistent board online for more than 6 months, where we have somebody come in and come out.
Yeah.
I know in the coaching world, they may not agree with this, but when you have a coaching staff that has been together over several years,
Yeah.
your production is much
you
better.
see the product.
And,
Yeah.
and that's gonna be the same with this park board, so I highly encourage that we try to,
I think
try
so.
to just, like I say, they're coming to help us,
Right.
and we're more than willing to help them, so.
Okay. Before we wrap the meeting up, I got one question I'd like to lay out there. Let's see, it'd be a week from Tuesday. I've got a meeting with the school board over everyone's winter. The school has sponsored my dunk tank for a few years, so I'm on the agenda. I want to thank them for that, and of course, I'm going to ask them again to sponsor the dunk tank. I would like to run the possibility by them where maybe we could sit down with Mike Cutler and the woodshop teacher up there. We need new picnic tables, okay? And eventually, I think we're gonna have to look at a different way to do our trash, but that's something different we can do down the line. But in my experience with using the kids to help me do things at the parks, they've helped me paint benches, they've helped me stain bowl rails, that kind of thing. All of a sudden, they're not tearing up the park or vandalizing it, okay? And we're gonna need, we've got 8 benches or 8 picnic tables in the pavilion. We've got this one that we put up here at Bear Park, and we've got the one that we put in at Shaky. So we have 10 tables right now that I have repaired over the years. They're rotting, they're terrible.
What happened to the octagon picnic table that was in Shakey's Park?
Somebody grabbed it.
Boy, that had to be somebody pretty stout to grab that, because that was a big table.
Yeah, but what I'd like to do is at least put a bug in their ear and say that the town would like to work together with the kids, and maybe at some point we'll supply the materials, they can supply the labor, and they can build us some new benches. And again, when the kids do it, they carry on. They're not gonna trash them. They're not gonna take their knives and carve their names
Yeah,
in
they've
them.
got a vested interest.
And in return for them doing that type of stuff, we're gonna make sure that we keep the tennis court in shape.
Right,
Cracks
right.
filled, we're gonna keep the basketball.
Well, they get so much community service time they gotta build up. I know the wood shop's building a display case for the museum.
Right.
Scott, the sheriff bought the material,
Nice.
and the kids are building the case.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's a neat idea, having.
In
So,
terms
you
of
don't,
this-
you don't mind, all I'm asking is, let me to drop this
Yes,
suggestion at the meeting and say that we'll follow it up with you know, with a couple members of the park board. But there are some projects the kids can do for us, and we need to, those benches, they're rotting. I mean, you know, there was one where I didn't even realize how rotten it was, and somebody sat down on it, the leg broke right out.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
yeah, they're getting to be suable things, you know.
So, okay. This is, we're gonna wrap this meeting up, and I would ask for a motion to,
I'm not voting on this committee.
I would ask for a
Yeah.
motion that we, what's the word? Adjourn the meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
So,
Okay, so I'm in the hospital for 2 days, starting tomorrow. But
Yeah.
I'll be back.
when are you going tonight, or?
No, I'm going first thing in the
Gentlemen,
morning.
wait, gentlemen. Let me turn this off, please.
Okay.